Dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum, beedle-dum-dum. There was a turtle by the name of Bert, and Bert the turtle was very alert. When danger threatened him, he never got hurt. He knew just what to do. He ducked and covered, ducked and covered.
He did what we all must learn to do. You
and you
and you
and you duck and cover.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did.
Let's talk about this. During the Cold War era, the United States government launched the Duck and Cover campaign in the early 1950s, specifically by the Federal Civil Defense Administration (FCDA). The campaign aimed to educate and reassure the public about what to do in the event of a nuclear attack. The central message of the Duck and Cover campaign was simple. In the event of an atomic bomb detonation, individuals should quickly take cover under tables or desks and protect themselves by curling into a ball and covering their heads and necks. The campaign utilized various media platforms, including posters, films, educational materials, and public service announcements, to disseminate this message to schools, workplaces, and communities across the country. However, the campaign also framed ducking and covering as a patriotic duty and a collective responsibility. In a more insidious sense, the Duck and Cover campaign contributed to the normalization of nuclear warfare by presenting ducking and covering as a practical and even effective response to a nuclear attack. The campaign downplayed the catastrophic consequences of such an event and reinforced the idea that nuclear war was survivable and even manageable. I mean, the effectiveness of the Duck and Cover campaign has been wildly debated. Critics like Howard Zinn, Noam Chomsky, and Edward Teller argued that the campaign offered a false sense of security and failed to adequately address the realities of nuclear warfare. Nevertheless, the campaign remains a potent symbol of Cold War propaganda and how governments have sought to shape public perceptions and behaviors in times of crisis. Welcome to Propaganda. The term propaganda finds its roots in the efforts of the Catholic Church during the Counter-Reformation in the 17th century. It is derived from the Latin word propagare, which means to propagate or to spread. The term was initially used in the context of the Catholic Church's efforts to spread its beliefs and counter the influence of Protestantism during a period of religious upheaval in Europe. The Congregation of the Propagation of the Faith, Congregatio de Propaganda Fide, was established by Pope Gregory XV in 1622 to oversee missionary activities and promote Catholicism around the world. Over time, the term propaganda took on broader connotations beyond religious contexts. In the late 18th and early 19th century, it began to be used in political and ideological contexts, particularly during periods of social and political upheaval, such as the French Revolution. Fast forward to the 20th century, the world witnessed the battleground of ideologies during the Cold War. the United States and the Soviet Union engage in a relentless duel, not only for military might, but also for propaganda prowess. Both superpowers wielded propaganda as a potent weapon, shaping narratives and perceptions on a global scale.
In recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing. If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it. If a person consistently reads and advocates the views expressed in a communist publication, he may be a communist. If a person supports organizations which reflect communist teachings, or organizations labeled communist by the Department of Justice, she may be a communist.
From the McCarthy era in the United States to the propaganda machinery of the Soviet regime, the Cold War era was a theater where truth often became a casualty. The propaganda war used multiple weapons, such as demonization of the enemy. Both sides, for example, depicted each other in highly negative terms to vilify the opposing ideology. American propaganda often portrayed the Soviet Union as an oppressive regime that violated human rights and suppressed freedoms. Conversely, the Soviet propaganda depicted the United States as an imperialist aggressor driven by capitalist exploitation, highlighting issues such as racial inequality, poverty, and social unrest. Also, both the United States and the Soviet Union produced propaganda films and television programs to promote their respective ideologies. These films often depicted heroic portrayals of national identity, such as the American film The Red Menace, or even the Soviet film The Cranes Are Flying, which is a brilliant film, by the way. I mean, even the space race between the United States and the Soviet Union was a highly visible arena of propaganda. Each side sought to demonstrate its scientific and technological superiority through achievements like the launch of the Sputnik by the Soviet Union or even the Apollo moon landing by the United States. Propaganda often targets emotions. It aims to evoke fear, anger, or empathy to sway opinions and behaviors. Research has shown that emotionally charged messages are more likely to be remembered and influence attitudes. For example, a study published in the journal Cognition and Emotion found that emotionally arousing content led to greater attention and memory retention compared to neutral content. It also exploits cognitive biases, such as confirmation bias, which leads individuals to seek out information that confirms their existing beliefs and attitudes, while ignoring or discounting even contradictory evidence. Research published in the journal Psychological Science has demonstrated that individuals are more likely to accept information that aligns with their preconceived beliefs. Studies in social psychology have shown that people are more likely to adopt the beliefs and behaviors of others, especially when those beliefs are perceived as normative or when individuals are uncertain about the correct course of action. And this is called the collective illusion, by the way. Neuroimaging studies using techniques such as functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, have provided insights into the neural mechanism underlying the process of propaganda messages. For example, the research published in the journal Neuron has shown that persuasive messages activate regions of the brain associated with reward processing and emotional arousal, suggesting that propaganda may tap into neural circuits involved in motivation and decision-making. Propaganda's evolution did not halt with the fall of the Iron Curtain. In today's postmodern culture, it has metamorphosed into something more insidious. In an age inundated with consumerism, propaganda seamlessly intertwines with marketing strategies, blurring the lines between persuasion and manipulation. Gradually, propaganda has woven itself into the very fabric of our culture, becoming an ideology in its own right. I mean, governments, corporations, and even social movements utilize its tactics, often without our conscious awareness, and even without theirs. You use propaganda in your resume, portfolio, social media accounts. Presidents use propaganda in presidency campaigns. Corporates use propaganda. We are all propaganda machines. In this dystopian dance of manipulation and influence, the lines between truth and fiction blur, and reality becomes but a mere illusion, crafted by the hands of propaganda. And as we navigate this maze of perception, one question looms large. Who holds the brush? And who paints the canvas of our reality?